Right, I didn't see it. I made him let it go.
What if a scientist's greatest breakthrough became his most horrifying nightmare? In 1958, The Fly transformed a Playboy short story into one of cinema's most chilling tales of science gone wrong. With a 20-pound fly head, an 18-day shooting schedule, and a director who never lived to see his greatest success, this film crawled its way into horror history. These are 20 shocking facts about The Fly, the movie that proved sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we create ourselves. Before we dive into the madness, make sure to subscribe and hype this video so we can keep uncovering the hidden stories behind classic horror's darkest secrets. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Number 1. A director's final masterpiece. Kurt Nyman never knew he'd directed the biggest hit of his career. Just weeks after The Fly premiered in theaters, Nyman passed away, never witnessing the box office sensation his film would become. It's a tragic irony that haunts the production. A director who spent his final days bringing this nightmare to life, only to miss the applause. The film became his unintended swan song, a dark legacy that would outlive him by decades. Number 2. Shot in a blink. Hollywood magic doesn't always need time. The Fly was filmed in just 18 days, a breakneck pace that would make modern productions weep. Every scene had to be perfect on the first or second take. There was no room for elaborate reshoots or lengthy deliberations. The crew worked with military precision, transforming chaos into cinema before the cameras could even cool down. That compressed timeline forced everyone to trust their instincts, and somehow it worked. Sometimes the best art comes from desperation disguised as efficiency. Number 3. 20 pounds of terror. Imagine trying to deliver a heartbreaking performance while wearing a 20-pound fly head strapped to your skull. That was David Hedison's reality. He later described acting in that monstrous costume as trying to play piano with boxing gloves on. Every head turn was a calculated effort, every gesture weighed down by rubber and metal. The costume wasn't just uncomfortable, it was suffocating. Yet Hedison somehow channeled that physical agony into emotional devastation. His Andre Delambra wasn't just transformed on screen, he was genuinely suffering under that mask. The pain you see isn't acting, it's survival. Number 4. Army surplus science. The laboratory where Andre's experiment goes horribly wrong cost just $28,000 to build. The secret? Army surplus equipment. The production team scoured military auctions and salvage yards, piecing together a mad scientist's workshop from discarded electronics and machinery. Switches, dials, panels, all of it repurposed from actual military gear. It gave the lab an authentic industrial feel that polished Hollywood sets could never match. Sometimes the best production design comes from necessity, not budgets. That makeshift laboratory became the birthplace of one of horror's most iconic transformations. Number 5. The computer from Desk Set. If the massive computer in Andre's lab looks familiar, that's because it already had a movie career. That hulking machine was Emmerich, the electronic brain from Fox's romantic comedy Desk Set, released just a year earlier in 1957. One year it's helping Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy fall in love. The next it's witnessing a man become a fly. Talk about typecasting. Fox knew how to stretch a budget, and that computer became a versatile prop that bridged comedy and horror without missing a beat. From calculating office efficiency to teleporting atoms, Emmerich saw it all. Number 6. No stuntman needed. When you see the Fly stumbling through that laboratory, that's David Hedison under all that latex and foam. No stunt double, no stand-in, just an actor committed to his craft. Despite the weight, the limited vision, and the suffocating heat, Hedison performed every scene himself. He wanted the creature to feel human, broken, desperate. A stuntman would have moved differently, walked differently. Hedison understood that Andre's tragedy wasn't just physical, it was deeply personal. So he endured the torture of that costume to make sure audiences felt every moment of Andre's descent into horror. Number 7. Born in Playboy. Before The Fly terrified moviegoers, it was a short story in the June 1957 issue of Playboy magazine. Writer George Langelaan crafted this tale of scientific hubris for an audience expecting something very different between those glossy pages. But the story struck a nerve. Hollywood saw the potential immediately, proof that great horror can emerge from the most unexpected places. What started as a quick read sandwiched between pinups became a cornerstone of science fiction cinema. Sometimes the best nightmares are hiding where you least expect them. Number 8. The Mandela Effect Mystery. Here's something strange. Countless viewers swear they remember The Fly being in black and white, but they're wrong. The film was shot in gorgeous, vibrant color. This collective false memory is a textbook example of the Mandela effect. The confusion likely stems from the fact that both sequels were filmed in black and white, creating a memory muddle decades later. But that original film? Full color. The green laboratory lights, the vivid red of that infamous blanket, the stark white of Andre's covered head, All of it was designed to be seen in color. Memory is a strange thing, and sometimes our minds rewrite history without asking permission. Number 9. Mouth-controlled nightmare. The fly head wasn't just a mask, it was a puppet show. The mobile proboscis that twitched and wriggled was controlled by a wooden plug David Hedison held clenched between his teeth. Every movement of that grotesque appendage was him, manually manipulating it from inside while trying to hit his marks and convey emotion. It was exhausting, disorienting, and borderline impossible, but that hands-on approach gave the creature an organic unpredictability. The proboscis didn't move like a mechanical effect, it twitched like something alive. That's because in a strange way, it was. Hedison's jaw muscles were the puppeteer pulling the strings. Number 10. The transformation that never was. David Hedison had a bold idea: show Andre's transformation gradually. Progressive makeup stages revealing the slow horror of becoming something inhuman. But the producers shut it down immediately. Too expensive, too time-consuming, too complicated for an 18-day shoot. So instead, the film gave us the shocking reveal. One moment Andre is human, the next he's a monster. In hindsight, that abrupt transformation might have been more effective. The audience doesn't see it coming, just like Andre didn't. Sometimes limitations force you into better storytelling. The gradual transformation would have been fascinating, but the sudden reveal was devastating. This is getting wild, right? From Army surplus labs to mouth-controlled proboscis, The Fly was a production held together by creativity and sheer willpower. If you're loving these behind-the-scenes secrets, make sure you've subscribed and hyped this video. We're only halfway through, and the best facts are still coming. Let's keep digging into the madness. Number 11. Michael Rennie said no. Michael Rennie, the star of The Day the Earth Stood Still, was offered the lead role in The Fly, and he turned it down flat. Why? Because his face would be covered for most of the film. Rennie had made a career out of his commanding presence and expressive features. Hiding under a rubber fly head wasn't his idea of acting, so he walked. And David Hedison inherited a role that would define his career. Sometimes the best casting happens when your first choice says no. Number 12. Love over horror. The most heartbreaking moment in the film almost didn't happen. When Andre writes "Love you" on the blackboard to his wife, that was David Hedison's idea. Director Kurt Neumann wanted something more desperate: help me, or kill the fly. But Hedison fought for tenderness. He understood that Andre's tragedy wasn't just physical horror, it was losing his humanity piece by piece. That simple message, "Love you," transforms the scene from monster movie to genuine tragedy. It's a reminder that even as his body fails him, Andre's love remains. Hedison knew that's what would break the audience's heart, and he was absolutely right. Number 13. The giggling spider web scene. Vincent Price and Herbert Marshall couldn't keep it together. The climactic spiderweb scene, where the tiny fly-headed Andre screams help me," in a high-pitched squeak, required around 8 takes. Not because of technical issues, but because Price and Marshall kept bursting into laughter. The absurdity of the moment, the squeaky voice, the miniature horror, it was too much. They'd hold it together until that voice hit, and then the professionalism would crack. Eventually they nailed it, but those outtakes must have been comedy gold. Even in horror's darkest moments, sometimes you just have to laugh. Number 14. The voice Hedison hated. David Hedison was furious when he heard the final cut. His voice in the spiderweb scene had been sped up without his consent, turning his desperate plea into a cartoonish squeak. He delivered that "help me" with genuine anguish, trying to make it horrifying. Instead, the studio made it funny. To Hedison, it undermined everything he'd worked for, transforming his performance into a joke. He felt betrayed by his own film. Yet somehow that squeaky voice became iconic. What Hedison saw as a failure, audiences saw as unforgettable. Sometimes art works in spite of our intentions, not because of them. Number 15. Patricia Owens' genuine shock. When Patricia Owens' character Helene finally sees Andre's fly head, her reaction is pure, unfiltered horror. That's because it was real. Director Kurt Neumann deliberately kept the fly head hidden from her until cameras rolled. She knew something terrible was coming, but not what. So when that cloth came off and she saw the grotesque insect face staring back at her, the shock you see is authentic. Her scream, her recoil, her devastation, all genuine. Neumann knew that no amount of rehearsal could create that moment. Sometimes the best direction is knowing when to let your actors be surprised. Number 16. Double feature madness. When The Fly hit theaters, it didn't arrive alone. It shared the marquee with Spacemaster X7, another sci-fi thriller about contamination and terror. Drive-ins and theaters loved double features, packing 2 nightmares for the price of one. First, you'd watch David Hedison transform into a human-fly hybrid. Then you'd see a different kind of scientific disaster unfold in space. The pairing was calculated chaos, designed to give audiences maximum thrills before the popcorn ran out. 2 films, 1 night, and enough nightmares to last a week. Number 17. The transformation we never saw. One of the film's smartest decisions is what it doesn't show. The actual moment when Andre and the Fly swap atoms inside the teleportation chamber never appears on screen. We see him enter human, we see him emerge transformed, but the moment of change remains invisible. That absence makes it more terrifying. Our imaginations fill in the horror far better than any special effect could. By hiding the transformation, the film forces us to picture it ourselves, and what we imagine is always worse than what we can see. Number 18. Vincent Price's horror crown. The Fly didn't just terrify audiences, it transformed Vincent Price's entire career trajectory. Before this film, Price was a versatile character actor who dabbled in everything from film noir to swashbuckling adventures. He was talented, respected, but not yet iconic. Then came The Fly, and everything changed. His performance as Francois Delambre, the brother forced to witness Andre's horrifying transformation, revealed something Hollywood hadn't fully recognized before. Price could make restraint more terrifying than any monster makeup. Watch him in that final spiderweb scene. The way his face hardens as he raises that rock, the cold calculation mixed with genuine sorrow, that's the moment Vincent Price became horror royalty. The grief in his eyes isn't acting, it feels ancestral. This film opened the floodgates for his legendary run through Gothic horror. House on Haunted Hill, The Tingler, the Roger Corman Poe adaptations, they all trace back to this moment. The Fly proved that Price didn't need to be the monster to own a horror film. Sometimes the scariest performance is the one watching the nightmare unfold. After this, studios knew exactly what to do with Vincent Price, and horror fans have been grateful ever since. Number 19. A Kinder Ending. George Langeland's original Playboy short story doesn't end with hope, it ends with a gun. In the source material, Helene Delambre, tormented by guilt over mercy killing her transformed husband, takes her own life. It's bleak, unforgiving, and brutally honest about the psychological toll of such trauma. But 1958 Hollywood wasn't ready for that level of darkness. The production code still governed what could and couldn't be shown, and a sympathetic protagonist committing suicide was absolutely off the table. So the screenwriter softened the blow. The film's Helene survives her ordeal, recovers from her breakdown, and the story implies she'll eventually find peace. Some critics argue this robs the tale of its tragic power, that by giving audiences a happy ending, the film undermines the very horror it spent 90 minutes building. But there's another way to look at it. The change makes the film about resilience instead of despair. Helene becomes a survivor, not a victim. She carries the weight of what happened but doesn't let it destroy her. In a strange way, that might be more terrifying than suicide, living with that memory forever, knowing what she saw, what she did, and choosing to continue anyway. The ending isn't just kinder, it's more complex. Hollywood's compromise accidentally created something deeper than the original. Sometimes censorship forces creativity in unexpected directions. Number 20. The Plagiarism Battle. The moment The Fly became a box office sensation, the lawsuits started flying. Writer and director Arch Oboler, a radio drama pioneer, wasn't celebrating the film's success. He was furious. Oboler claimed the entire premise was stolen from his 1937 radio play, Across the Gabby, and he wanted compensation. The similarities were certainly there. Both stories featured scientists, experimental technology, and horrifying transformations that blurred the line between human and other. Oboler's lawyers argued it was too close to be coincidence. The studio, naturally, denied everything. They pointed to George Langeland's Playboy story as the sole source material and claimed any resemblance to Oboler's work was purely accidental. After all, science fiction in the 1950s was obsessed with transformation and mutation. Atomic age anxiety made those themes ubiquitous. How many stories about scientists playing God and paying the price had already been told? The legal battle dragged on, becoming its own drama behind the scenes. Depositions, arguments, character witnesses, the whole machinery of Hollywood justice grinding forward while the film kept making money. Whether The Fly truly plagiarized Oboler's work or simply drew from the same well of cultural fears remains contested even today. The case serves as a reminder that in Hollywood, success breeds scrutiny. And sometimes the real monsters aren't on screen, they're in conference rooms with lawyers, fighting over who owns the nightmare. The plagiarism lawsuit became part of The Fly's DNA, a footnote that proves even the most iconic films are born from conflict, creativity, and occasionally, a little bit of theft. Bonus number 1. The sequel nobody expected. The Fly was such a massive hit that 20th Century Fox immediately greenlit a sequel, but here's the twist, they shot it in black and white. Return of the Fly arrived in 1959, just 1 year later, and the studio made a calculated decision to strip away the color that made the original so visually striking. Why? Budget cuts, plain and simple. The first film's success didn't translate into a bigger budget for the follow-up, it translated into cost-cutting measures designed to maximize profit. Vincent Price returned, but the vibrant laboratory greens and that shocking red blanket were replaced with stark shadows and gray tones. The irony is painful. The sequel to a color film that audiences misremember as black and white was actually shot in black and white. It's like the Mandela effect became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Fox essentially made the film that people falsely remembered seeing. And then they did it again with Curse of the Fly in 1965, another black and white sequel to a color original. This trilogy accidentally became a study in diminishing returns, each installment losing not just budget and color, but the emotional impact that made the first film unforgettable. The sequels exist in the shadow of their predecessor, literally drained of color, proving that sometimes lightning doesn't strike twice, especially when you're trying to capture it in monochrome. Bonus number 2, the real science behind the horror. Here's what makes The Fly truly terrifying. The science isn't entirely fiction. In 1958, the concept of teleportation was pure fantasy, but the film's central premise about atomic reconstruction touched on real scientific discussions happening at the time. Physicists were genuinely debating the nature of matter, the possibilities of disassembling and reassembling objects at the molecular level. The teleportation pods in Andre's lab might have been Hollywood invention, but the questions they raised were deadly serious. What happens to consciousness during matter transfer? If you disassemble a human being atom by atom and rebuild them elsewhere, is it still the same person? These weren't just horror movie thought experiments, they were legitimate philosophical and scientific debates that continue today with quantum mechanics and teleportation research. The film accidentally predicted modern ethical discussions about cloning, genetic engineering, and the boundaries of human experimentation. When Andre steps into that pod, he's not just risking his body, he's risking his very identity, his soul, if you believe in such things. The fly in the chamber isn't just a contamination, it's a violation of the natural order, proof that humanity isn't ready for the technology it's creating. That's why The Fly aged so well while other 1950s sci-fi films feel dated. It asks questions we still can't answer. In 2025, as we edge closer to genetic modification, AI consciousness, and technologies that blur the line between human and machine, Andre Delombra's nightmare feels less like fantasy and more like warning. The real horror of The Fly isn't the monster makeup, it's the realization that we're building our own teleportation pods right now, and we still don't know what'll happen when we step inside. From a director's final masterpiece to plagiarism lawsuits, The Fly proved that sometimes the wildest stories happen off-screen. A 20-pound fly head, an 18-day shoot, and a tale born in Playboy magazine somehow combined to create one of horror's most enduring nightmares. So which fact shocked you the most? The mouth-controlled proboscis, Patricia Owens' genuine terror, or the fact that so many people remember it in black and white? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and hype this video so we can keep uncovering the hidden madness behind classic horror's greatest films.